long before any mortal laid claim to the stolen lands. A fey nymph named Nerissa rose to prominence in the First World, the primal and unpredictable realm of the Fae. She fell deeply in love with Count Renalk, one of the eldest, godlike beings who rule the First World, and began to act with increasing boldness and ambition. Encouraged by her lover, she claimed herself to be the newest of the eldest, and began building her own nation. But the eldest are not so easily supplanted. One of them in particular, the trickster god Lantern King, took offense and saw opportunity. Nerissa's boldness stirred the rest of the eldest into action. They saw her as a threat and began punishing her in escalating ways. First, a Jabberwock was sent to slay her, but she defeated it and used its blood to spawn her own lesser Jabberwocks. Next, 1,000 Fey champions were sent against her, but she turned them into allies, folding them into her growing domain. Finally, her lover, Count Renalk, was exiled to the Shadow Plane, removing her most powerful supporter. Still defiant, Nerissa ultimately surrendered, but her apology was not enough for the Lantern King. The Lantern King declared her capacity to love would be stripped away as punishment, but he offered a twisted bargain. If Nerissa could replace the 1,000 Fey breath she'd rallied with 1,000 mortal kingdoms, her penance would be complete and her capacity for love restored. To track this, the Lantern King gave her an artifact, the Apology, a magical chalice that converts conquered kingdoms into grains of sand. Once it held 1,000 grains, 1,000 stolen nations, she would be forgiven. But as a final twist of cruelty, her love was ripped from her soul and forged into a sword called Briar, entrusted to the Lantern King himself. What followed was an ages-long campaign of conquest. Nerissa warped into a creature obsessed, not just with power, but with reclaiming what she had lost. Her demiplane, Thousand Breaths, became both a prison and a fortress, carved from the First World itself. And now, only one kingdom remains between her and redemption, a new rising kingdom in the Stolen Lands. Game Masters, welcome to the Stolen Lands. This video kicks off a full series covering the Pathfinder 2nd Edition Kingmaker Adventure Path. Kingmaker is also available for Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition, and while this series is geared towards Pathfinder, much of the story content, structure, and prep advice should translate well for either version. If you're running Kingmaker or planning to, you're in the right place. This series is designed to give Game Masters an overview of each chapter, highlighting major plot points, important NPCs, events, and everything else you need to help prep. This series is designed to give Game Masters an overview of each chapter, highlighting major plot points, important NPCs, events, everything you need to help you prep. This episode will be a big picture overview. What is Kingmaker? How does it play? And what systems do you need to know before diving in? Quick note on spoilers. This series is intended for Game Masters. This video and the ones that follow will contain spoilers. So if you're wanting to be a player, here's your warning to stop watching. Also, be sure to check the links in the description. I've included videos from some other great creators that dive deeper into many of the topics we will touch on in this video. Let's get started. What is Kingmaker? Kingmaker is a sandbox-style epic campaign taking players from level 1, where you will start as frontier explorers, to level 20, leading their own kingdom. It blends wilderness survival, political drama, and the rise of a nation. One session, you're mapping forests and fighting trolls. The next, you're building settlements into cities, leading armies into war, or negotiating trade agreements. There's no single correct path. Player choices shape your world, unlock different outcomes, and determine the fate of the stolen lands. What to know before you start. Kingmaker is big. This campaign spans several years of in-game time, so the pacing is a bit different from your typical adventure. You can expect bursts of adventuring, followed by stretches of downtime. Time to expand your kingdom, manage affairs, or do those downtime activities that you don't typically get to do. Finding the right rhythm between exploration and kingdom building, assuming that you're using the full system, takes a bit of planning and prep. As the game master, you'll be guiding the flow of months and seasons, not just days. Let's talk about quests. Kingmaker has a lot of them. There's the main quest line, but also tons of side quests scattered throughout the book. One major issue I ran into personally is that these quests aren't always presented in a clean, linear order. Some are tucked away in later chapters or in random hex entries, making it easy to miss handing them out to your players ahead of time. Another issue to watch out for is quest overload. There are points in the campaign where your party might be juggling a dozen or half a dozen active quests. If you're leveling with XP instead of milestone, this can quickly lead to the party outpacing the adventure. My advice? Review the optional quests ahead of time and consider putting limits in place. Maybe they have to choose which quest to follow up on. Present them 2 quests and let them pick. And the other quest, maybe a rival adventuring group or some of the companion NPCs takes care of them. Adding in-world time pressure or natural consequences can help keep things manageable and maintain pacing without overwhelming your players or yourself. There are a few key subsystems you'll want to familiarize yourself with that will be used in the Kingmaker campaign. This will be a high-level overview. If you want to get more into depth on these systems, I'll include links to the other videos that I would recommend that will get more into the details for the Pathfinder 2 subsystems. Hexploration. The world is built on a massive hex map. Players will move one hex at a time, discovering new landmarks, dealing with threats, carving their own path. Time, travel pace, and terrain all matter. Expect weather, camping, random encounters, and strategic choices about where to explore next. This will begin in Chapter 2, and we will discuss that more in an upcoming video. Kingdom building. Once the players establish their first settlement, they step into the role of leaders, and that's where the kingdom building system comes into play. This subsystem is the most complex and divisive part of this campaign. If your players aren't interested in the strategic layer, there are variant rules to run kingdom in the background, where the kingdom expands passively on a set path. There's also some homebrewing options that smooth out those rough edges of the kingdom building system and kind of streamline the experience. As a game master, you're going to want to understand how the system works and talk with your group up front. Decide how much you want to engage with it and how much you want to automate. This isn't your typical ttrpg mechanic. It feels more like a lightweight strategy board game. Players take on leadership roles, manage resource points, decide how to expand their cities, choosing which buildings to construct, what resources to develop, and how to respond to events that affect the kingdom. It's a big shift in gameplay style. Not every table is going to love it, but it does play a major role in the story. The kingdom's development, the players' decisions, and how they manage their kingdom directly influence how the world reacts around them. Warfare. As threats scale up, so does the conflict. Kingmaker includes rules for commanding armies in abstracted battles. These aren't full tactical war maps. Instead, you'll manage unit stats, morale, tactics, and battlefield roles in a streamlined, narrative-friendly system. Kingmaker utilizes several of the Pathfinder subsystems, most notably the Influence subsystem. This can feel clunky at first if you've not run this in an adventure previously, so I would suggest that you read up on this particular subsystem. I'll leave some videos in the description that will go into details on this, as well as victory points. Here are some useful resources that will help you prep your Kingmaker campaign. The first thing I would recommend is to download the official player's guide. This is a great resource, especially if you've not yet purchased the adventure book and would like to know how the kingdom and warfare rules work. This is available for free on paizo.com, and the link will be in the description. You can also purchase an optional Kingmaker Companion Guide supplement. This fleshes out the companions from the main adventure book, giving them backstory, full stat blocks, individual quests, as well as adding more additional companions. It also includes subsystems for camping and weather to add to your campaign. Earlier I mentioned how the quests in the book are not laid out in a linear way, making it easy to overlook and miss the opportunity to present them to your players. I've come through the entire adventure and created a spreadsheet of all the quests, special kingdom events that are tied to specific triggers, and companion quests organized by level. You'll find the link to that in the description. I recommend keeping it handy or use it as inspiration to make your own that works for you. Finally, here's a brief overview of the campaign chapter by chapter. This is your last warning for spoilers. Chapter 1, Call for Heroes. The campaign opens with a grand feast in the city of Restov. The party meets key NPCs and has a chance to sway potential allies, build early relationships, or make future enemies. The Influence subsystem is used here to track social maneuvering and NPC attitudes towards them. Of course, peace doesn't last. When the feast is suddenly attacked, the players are thrust into immediate danger, setting the tone for the campaign to come. In the aftermath, they're granted a charter to explore the untamed stolen lands, confront bandits, begin building the foundation of their future kingdom, one hex at a time. Chapter 2, Into the Wild. This is the largest chapter in the book. Chapter 2 contains the core sandbox of the campaign. It'll cover details for all the hex encounters for the entire Stolen Lands map. It's where Hexploration system is fully introduced. The party will explore one hex at a time, uncovering important landmarks, quest locations, and NPCs that will shape the future of the campaign. This is not a linear chapter. It covers the entire Stolen Lands region and provides the tools and content you'll need to run the open-ended exploration. As the Game Master, you'll reference this chapter throughout the entire campaign as the party explores the map. Chapter 3, Stolen Lands. This chapter kicks off the party's first major objective: explore and pacify the Greenbelt. It includes scripted events tied to key locations, introduces important and recurring NPCs, and sets up the Stag Lord as the central threat that the players must track down and eliminate. Chapter 4, Rivers Run Red. The party establishes their kingdom and, if you're using the kingdom system, begins taking kingdom turns to level it up. As the campaign goes on, you're going to try and keep the kingdom level within a level or two of the party. To break up the strategic gameplay, this chapter also includes threats and events that challenge the new nation and introduce future storylines. These events are handled using a mix of traditional adventuring, kingdom subsystem, and victory point mechanics to track outcomes and player influence. Chapter 5, Cult of the Bloom. As the kingdom continues to grow, the party is invited to a prestigious hunt, where they will discover a strange magical corruption affecting local wildlife. This corruption escalates, leading to an investigation that uncovers the Cult of the Bloom, a group of Lamashtu worshippers behind the threat. This chapter introduces the research subsystem, as players gather information and track down the cult's origins before confronting them directly. Chapter 6, Varnhold Vanishing. Lady Jamandi Aldori tasked the party with investigating a sudden disappearance of the village of Varnhold. The players travel to the region, uncover clues, and interact with a tribe of centaurs as they piece together what happened. Their investigation eventually reveals a deeper threat, a Cyclops Lich tied to ancient magic, which they must confront to resolve the mystery. Chapter 7, Blood for Blood. The party is called to defend the town of Tazelford from an approaching enemy army, using the warfare subsystem to lead the town's defense. After the battle, they'll be tasked with rescuing a captured knight from Fort Drevlev, which leads to infiltrating and eventually overthrowing the corrupted Baron in control. This chapter features tactical combat, political fallout, and expanded use of both the warfare and victory point systems. By the end, the party should begin formally building and managing armies for their own kingdom if they haven't already. Chapter 8. The party is invited to the Rushlight tournament by King Iravetti of Pitax, giving them time to compete in or observe various contests. While they're away at the tournament, Iravetti launches a secret surprise attack on their kingdom, triggering a full-scale war. This chapter shifts from diplomacy and games to retaliation and conquest, ending with the party infiltrating Pitax and confronting King Iravetti. This section introduces the liberation point system to track their success in reclaiming the city. Chapter 9, Thresholds of Dread. The party will return to Candlemore Island to stop an immortal cult of Yog-Sothoth from completing a ritual that would pull the god into the material plane, right in the heart of their kingdom. The final dungeon beneath the island tests everything they've built as they face the cult and try to prevent planar catastrophe. Chapter 10, Sound of 1,000 Screams. Just as peace seems within reach, Nerissa launches her assaults on the kingdom, triggering a month-long period of chaos as bloom events erupt across the land. These magical disasters test the kingdom's leadership and stability. By the end of this chapter, the party is driven to confront Nerissa directly, a journey that will take them into the First World. Chapter 11, Curse of the Lantern King. After Nerissa's defeat, or redemption, the true mastermind behind the kingdom's suffering is revealed. The Lantern King, one of the eldest of the First World. The party returns to their kingdom only to discover it's being rewritten and corrupted by powerful First World magic. Familiar places are distorted and the boundaries between realities are breaking down. To end the Lantern King's influence, the party must travel between their fractured kingdom and the First World, unravel his curse, and confront him directly. The choices made in previous chapters, especially regarding Nerissa, influence how this final act unfolds. This is the true climax of the campaign, resolving the metaphysical conflict at the heart of Kingmaker and determining the fate of the player's kingdom once and for all. My plan for this series is to go chapter by chapter, covering storylines, major events, key NPCs, and prep tips to handle the twists and turns. So if you're ready to lead your players from frontier scouts to legendary rulers, subscribe and follow the series, because Kingmaker is a campaign like no other. Welcome to the Stolen Lands. I'd like to give a special shout out to the YouTube channel, The Chindividual. Their series on the Abomination Vaults was my inspiration to do this series for Kingmaker. I put a link in the description. Please go check out their YouTube, check out their videos, and if you like them, subscribe to them and give them some likes. See you next video.